My name is Kay Taylor, and I'd like to ask you a question today. If you were to be in an accident or have a medical condition where you can let your opinions be known as to what you wanted to do as far as life support or any kind of resuscitation or life-saving measures, would your family know what your wishes are? Well, I'd like to share with you a personal story. About a year ago, my dad was taken to the emergency room in an ambulance, and my mother and I met him there. And when we got to see him for the first time, he was on a mechanical ventilator. As if that wasn't traumatic enough for us, a few hours later up in the critical care unit at about 3 o'clock in the morning, a nurse came in and asked us if he were to go into cardiac arrest, what would we want them to do? Would we want them to resuscitate him? What kind of measures were we willing for them to take? Well, my mother froze like a deer in the headlights. That was her companion of over 50 years, her husband, and she just froze. Even though they had talked about his wishes, she froze on me. So there I was by myself, daddy's girl, forced to make that decision. Fortunately, we never had to know if the decision I made was the correct one because he was able to be weaned off life support later on. But it made me start thinking, if that were me, if something happened to me, if I went out today and I was in an automobile accident, or I've had a stroke in the past, if I were to have another stroke and not be so fortunate, would my loved ones know what I wanted, how I wanted them to handle that situation? And more importantly, I thought, do I want to leave them in that situation, have to make that decision, have to agonize over that decision? And my answer was, no, I don't want to do that to them. And so that's when I decided it was in my best interest and theirs to get an advance directive. So today we're going to talk about advance directives. We're going to talk about what advance directives are. We're going to talk about where do you get one. Once you decide you needed one, where do you get an advance directive? And then what are you going to do with it once you have it? All those things are important. So that's the topics that we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go ahead and start with what is an advance directive. Well, according to Legal Aspects of Healthcare textbook, an advance directive is simply a legal written document that states how you want those kind of things handled at the end of your life. It gives your wishes regarding life support, how much medication, what to withhold, what to give. All of those things are included in your advance directive. According to Ethics in Healthcare, there are there are several types of advance directives, but there are two that are most common. The first one we're going to talk about is the living will, and that's what probably most of you are most familiar with. The living will is a document that is a printed document, and it has outlined exactly what you want done. Do you want to be put on a ventilator? Would you want CPR? How long do you want to be sustained? If you want these things, do you want them taken off after 48 hours, after 2 weeks? You put exactly what you want. It has boxes you can check what you want, check you don't want it. If there's something that's just a little bit different than what you want, you can mark through that and put it exactly the way you want it. And that's a legal binding document to the medical healthcare professionals that they have to follow to abide by your end-of-life wishes, or if you're wanting life support and all that, they have to follow that as well. The second type that we're going to talk about is healthcare by proxy. Now, healthcare by proxy is different. It's still a written document, and it still has to be signed. However, with the healthcare by proxy, you are telling everybody what you want, that you want this, you don't want that. And there's no specifics lined out in the healthcare by proxy. It does, however, say that you have a family member or a loved one that you trust to make those decisions for you should you not be able to anymore. So that's a little bit stickier situation. You have to trust that that person is going to abide by your wishes, know that's what you wanted, and not get emotional when that time comes and not be able to do that. If you want to not have life support and those kinds of things, are they going to not be ready to let you go and go ahead and do it even though that's not what you wanted? Or, the other could arise. Are they going to say, you know what, this person's never going to be any better, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves? And I know she said put her on life support, but I don't think that's the best thing to do. Do you want to put that in somebody else's hands to make sure that they carry out your wishes? So those are the two types that we're going to talk about, the living will and the healthcare by proxy. So there are benefits not only to you but to your family for you to get an advance directive. So what are the benefits for you? First of all, should you have a terminal illness, or something that you know is going to eventually terminate your life sooner than you had hoped, it has been shown in the textbook of Psychology of Death and Dying that people who have advance directives in place are able to be more peaceful in those last days, knowing that their wishes are going to be carried out. For everybody, it puts you in, I have a better frame of mind now, knowing that if I can't make those decisions for myself, I have that piece of paper that my husband doesn't have to decide. It's not put on my children to decide. I've decided, and that's that, and they don't have to struggle with if they made the right decision. So I have that peace of mind. And how does it benefit your family? Like we talked about before, this is an emotional time for anybody's family. They have enough to struggle with without having to decide what you want. Are they doing the right thing? And as I said already, in the Psychology of Death and Dying, people whose loved ones had advance directive get through the grieving process much more quickly and smoothly than people whose loved ones didn't have one. So if you don't do it for yourself, for your peace of mind, do it for your family's peace of mind. So now that we know what they are, where you get, why it benefits you and your family to have one, we need to talk about where to get one, because you can know all this, and if you don't know where to get it, it's not going to do you a hill of beans. So you can get these online. Just Google advance directive, and it'll pop up. You can print it, fill it out exactly like you want it. If you need somebody to help you with it, ask them and go from there. You can get them at your doctor's office. They'll be happy to give you one. And anytime you check in for medical treatment, they'll ask you if you have an advance directive, and if you don't, just tell them you don't, but you'd like one, and they'll be happy to do that for you. And now, most importantly, what are you going to do with it? It's not going to do you any good if it's at home, in the filing cabinet, or wherever. You need to take it with you when you get health care. That way, if something happens, and nobody anticipates ever having to need this, but if you need it, medical professionals have it, they know what you want, and we don't have to go through all this guessing. So I would like to leave you just with this thought. Hopefully this time with me hasn't been wasted, and I've made you stop and think about advance directive and why it's so important to get one. So thank you, and I hope that you've taken something away from this.